So, Ian, warm welcome to the Mr. FinTech Fireside Chat on Connecting Dots. Thank you very much for connecting in. And everyone for whom you are connecting wherever you are, good morning, good evening, and warm welcome again. And my name is Kalana Meneripitiya. I'm the co-founder and CEO of nFinance. And with me joining today, we have Ian Yanusko from Bracket. He's the founder and co-CEO of Bracket. Warm welcome, Ian.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Perfect. So, Ian, we would first like to hear from you, some background of you, what you had been doing in the past, and how you came towards founding this idea towards the launch of Bracket and where you are today.
Sure, that sounds good. Yeah, so I started my career in economic and litigation consulting as a data engineer. So I worked for this company in Washington, D.C. for a couple of years. And basically what I was doing was a ton of data analysis that fed into corporate litigation cases in the US. So you can think of like giant antitrust cases involving mergers, like Disney and Fox are merging, and the US government is investigating whether it's anti-competitive. I would do data analysis and set up data pipelines to feed into the analysis of whether that merger was anti-competitive. So I would work with lawyers, I would work with academic experts, help them prepare their testimony. And during that job, I was doing a ton of data work. I was working in a lot of pretty common languages like R and Python, and also working with Excel, et cetera. And it was during that time that I started to see sort of the frictions that can come up when you're working with a ton of data across large teams. After working there at a company called Cornerstone for a while, I switched gears entirely and I went to work for a Y Combinator startup that's based in Indonesia called Shipper. They do logistics in the country of Indonesia. They do warehousing and delivery. And at Shipper, I was working as a product manager, and I was the head of our internal data tools. So my whole job was basically reporting on the quality of our operations, the status of our operations to the people that needed to see that data. And so again, here I was kind of seeing these sort of frictions with getting data from one point to another, especially in a fast-growing large startup like Shipper. And then after Shipper, I left to start my own company, Bracket. We did Y Combinator in the winter 22 batch, so one of the more recent batches, and we've been building it ever since.
Interesting. So when it comes to your journey, you mentioned there had been a lot of data-related transactions, certain reconciliation work, and analyzing work. What problem usually small to medium or enterprise level businesses face as challenges on a day-to-day basis when it comes to connecting these data points? There are so many, ton of data points coming from various platforms, various technologies. Some are legacy and some are latest technology. How do you all manage these on a usual workflow?
Yeah, so there's a ton of problems to dig into there. I would say the one that comes, the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart is the fact that you have to use so many different systems to interact with your production data at a lot of companies. And so what, you even if you take a small startup of 5 people, most of those team members are probably interacting with data across a ton of different tools, whether it's the CRM, the backend database, a data warehouse, Google Sheets, Airtable, Notion. There are all of these different tools, right? And there is a cost, a huge context cost to switching between tool after tool after tool after tool. What I started Bracket to help address is this pain point, right? So basically what we do is we consolidate data from your backend database into an easy to use tool like a Google Sheet or an Airtable or a Notion. And this way, you never have to actually like jump between these tools. You can get everything into a single spot. You can basically run your whole business off of a Google Sheet or an Airtable tab, and it's simpler for everybody. And so, yeah, I would say there is a huge cost to context switching across tools and wondering when is data accurate, when is it correct. And Bracket is trying to solve this with real-time data syncing between tools, and a bunch of other companies are fixing other parts of that value chain as well. But I'm hoping that in 10 or 20 years, it's no longer a big question of where is my source of truth. All of your data will be syncing seamlessly, and everybody will be on the same page.
Perfect. So that's where our vision is. Do you, on your view as of now, with your cohorts who had been working with certain accelerator programs or at YC, do you see that is it where we are heading with no code and certain new technologies which are currently seen today? Is it where the industry is heading?
You're asking about no code specifically?
Yes, and data crunching with regard to using simple experiences rather than complex experiences. Where are we heading?
So I think overall, companies that simplify will do well. And that's a broad statement. But companies that can offer up a solution that eats up what was previously 5 different solutions, I can see doing well, because it then reduces the amount of context switching between tools. On the no-code side specifically, I think no-code tools are getting better and better and better. So for example, a lot of our customers start with Airtable as their production database. It's the only database they use. However, they eventually hit limits on what Airtable can do for them. Their team grows, they hire more technical backend engineers, and those engineers want them to move to something like a Postgres database or something like a MongoDB database, which is more scalable and more performant. And we help with that because we can, enable you to continue using Airtable as your user interface, but sync it with these larger databases so that you can take advantage of the scalability of a Postgres. But the problem there, right, is that the no-code tools are not quite mature enough to really fully replace the legacy infrastructure that we have. And so it's an open question to me, but I think that we will continue to like Airtable was a huge step up and improvement on Google Sheets in many, many ways, right? Notion feels like something that should have always existed, but didn't exist until relatively recently. I think there's a lot still to be built in the no-code space that once it's built, we'll ask ourselves, how did I ever get by without this? I can't believe this wasn't built earlier. There are a lot of things that can and I'm hoping, will be easier to do as a non-technical founder in 10 years relative to today. And maybe AI is part of that as well, generating scripts, helping with landing page design or generating new landing pages, et cetera. You see like Webflow was a huge improvement over just raw HTML coding. That's great. But, Webflow is still relatively tricky for somebody who's completely non-technical to step into and to do it well. I think there's more room in a lot of these spaces to build for people who are hacky, but not engineers. That persona, I think, is on the rise, and there are going to be more products for people like that.
So when it comes to the industry, we also see emerging of certain vastly adapted new tools like Retool as well. When it comes to even FinTech founders' journey, nFinance also uses these sort of platforms and technologies. With your startup Bracket specifically, how are you planning to connect these dots in this tech space? How would you simplify using Bracket or your vision towards bracket where an actual entrepreneur or a certain complex enterprise organization would be benefited on a daily basis? How would their analysts would have a happy life?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I asked a lot of the customers we talked to, are you sure you have all of the data you need sitting right in front of you? Because what often happens with startups is they will scale a ton of data in their backend. Let's say you've got a website, and you're pulling in user data from that site into a Postgres database, and that user data is valuable. It's your user onboarding flow. It's the data that users are giving you on product usage. This is super valuable stuff for a founder to understand what their user base is and how their user base is acting. What frequently happens, though, is the founder is a little hesitant to jump into checking Postgres themselves or checking MongoDB themselves because it's an unfamiliar interface. And so they'll ask their CTO or their head of engineering to export stuff from the database into a CSV for them. That's just an unnecessary friction, right? You're asking your CTO to do this kind of low-level task. You could build like a retool dashboard for it, sure. But 9 times out of 10, people build retool dashboards, or they build Tableau dashboards, they build BI tools. 9 times out of 10, in my experience, people are just exporting to CSV anyway, because especially in the finance world, people are so used to working with data in Excel, in G Sheets. They know their formulas, they know how to create their charts quickly. And there's a sense of like, look, yeah, maybe in a perfect world, we would all be checking our BI dashboards, but you have to look at what behavior actually
You always
is.
revert back to CSV as your
Yeah.
go-to friend, right?
Yeah. If people, and look, I think for like 10 years or so in tech, there was a huge push to just every single use case for a spreadsheet. Everybody was trying to build a SaaS for like a particular use case of a spreadsheet, but we still have spreadsheets, which means people like spreadsheet. Like it's not going to go away. It's such a great tool. It's the best thing Microsoft's ever done is make spreadsheets easier to use. And then Google made it free, which is great.
Yes.
They're not going to go away because they're great. They're one of the best tools out there. So those are the dots I'm trying to connect. Hey, you are going to end up using a spreadsheet. So how do you get the right data into there? And how do you even use that spreadsheet as a way to write data back to the database in certain circumstances, right? Instead of telling your engineer, hey, I need you to make edits to like this cell, this cell, this cell, you can just do that yourself. So there's a lot of different use cases here, but that's the main friction that we're trying to address.
All right. So when it comes to sharing my own experiences with you, we had a certain catch-up call some time back as well. When it comes to e-commerce and FinTech sector, which we are widely involved in, we see that the small to medium-sized e-commerce sellers, when they grow from their side hustle to full-time gig, and when they start using 5 to 10 number of team members on their operation, then there's a lot of data coming in on their e-commerce journey, right? There are so many e-commerce platforms which they manage, seller platforms, they manage so many dropshipping sources, service providers, accounting, taxation, and also they have multiple websites when it comes to e-commerce journey. From our side as nFinance, we try to provide daily payouts, analyzing these data on a daily basis, and these daily payouts help them on scaling up their business. But this has so many data points. If you take our use case even, this might be a similar use case for many other businesses. What benefit even these stakeholders would have using a certain connected data point using a platform like Bracket?
Yeah. So it would depend on the team and the particular use case. I mean, with e-commerce, we see our customers using it to monitor the status of orders and the status of inventory, right? So, as an e-commerce seller, as a logistics player, you probably have to do a lot of customer support, right? There's a ton of orders coming in. Customers will make changes to those orders. Customers will change their address. Orders will get lost. Inventory gets damaged, etc. All of these things happen that often require a human to go in and make a change to the data. So, if a customer came to me or came to my website and they submitted their forms, they did their onboarding, and then they needed to change their address later, but I hadn't yet built that feature for them on the website, they're probably going to email me or ping me on intercom or ping me on WhatsApp. I can either, my customer support person can either send a Slack message to the engineers to make a change to that particular row in the data, which involves multiple people, or the engineers can give customer success people the ability to do this directly. Give them an Airtable, give them a Google Sheet that has real-time data on their customers and their customer demographics, orders, and inventory, and allow those customer success folks who are not technical, but have the best idea of what's happening on the ground to actually make the change themselves. It reduces friction, it increases speed, and it makes sure that you're responding to your customers as quickly as possible, which, that sort of SLA, that sort of quick customer response for an e-commerce seller is so crucial. So I'd say like that's the main bucket of use cases. It's like who at your company knows what's going on the ground the best, and thus should be given kind of the keys to the kingdom, should be allowed to make edits to certain types of data in your backend. Give them a non-technical tool like a Google Sheet or an Airtable, instead of building a retooled dashboard from scratch for them. Give them a tool that they're used to and are going to use anyway, and reduce the frictions across the board. That's what we're trying to achieve.
Perfect. So when it comes to your journey currently, you see that there are certain larger challenges faced by the whole industry when it comes to VCs, and when it comes to economy. There are so many roller coaster ride is happening outside. With regard to being an entrepreneur, what are your biggest challenges which you are faced today in this sort of a complex situation out there? What are your biggest challenges which you are currently facing today?
Yeah, I mean, our biggest challenge, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs' biggest challenge, is just really solidifying product market fit, right? So, when you're a company that's still pre-product market fit, before, things get growth gets really, really crazy for you, where you're hiring, 5 people a week. Before that point, it's all about understanding your customer and talking to them, getting their feedback, really being aggressive in trying to understand what value they get from your service, what use cases they have, and then finding the best subpopulation of your customer base that you want to really dial in on. There's like a famous story with Superhuman where he had a ton of different types of users. And then I think he ended up focusing on VCs. I think it was VCs, based on customer feedback, right? And he kind of dropped everybody else. Basically, he stopped listening to their feature requests because he figured out who his customer base was, and he really leaned in on that, and then he grew from there. And so, we're at a similar stage where we've got a lot of different use cases for something like Bracket. People use us to sync from the database into Google Sheets. They use us to sync from the Google Sheet into the database. They use us to sync both ways. There's a lot that can be done with a tool like this. And so we're trying to understand every day which use case is driving the most value to our customers, and how do we find more customers like that we can deliver value to. This is like a consistent problem for founders, and it's kind of one of the most important ones. And it's not unique to any macroeconomic situation. But on the macroeconomy side, we're really not that worried, because we stay very lean as a team, and we really keep our costs down. So we're doing everything we can to extend that runway, and I think a lot of other companies right now are, based on kind of the prevailing factors in the economy and lack of certainty for the future. So those are definitely two big problems, but they're not unique to this time in history per se.
And before moving to our last question, would you be able to share your experience with the YC and how they had helped you out, or what sort of value you received as a startup, as an entrepreneur on the YC program, joining to YC?
Yeah. I mean, YC, really lives up to its name. I would recommend it to any founder, especially first-time founders who haven't gone through it before. Second time, third time, if you're a fourth-time founder, I mean, you've kind of figured it out at that point. For us, the biggest value adds were, one, the time that we got with our group partners. So the people that are helping to run YC, the people that have coached a ton of other startups and who just have a lot of data in their brains on what works and what doesn't. Data that I don't have in my brain. And data that most founders don't, and it's data that like often runs contrary to the sort of stories that you read on Twitter from other founders or VCs or whatever. If you're on VC Twitter, it can lead you astray super quickly. I found that the YC group partners are pretty pragmatic people. They're trying to help you. They're giving you very blunt advice, and not a lot of people are out there giving you very blunt, well-grounded advice.
That's one of the most important elements for new entrepreneurs or someone who is running a startup, right? Being blunt at the earlier stage really helps, rather than deviating journeys, creating a lot of burn on the runaway.
Yeah. I mean, you want to fail quickly. You want to pivot quickly. You want to move quickly, and the only way you do that is if somebody is telling you point blank, hey, this is not working, and here are the 3 reasons why, and you need to figure something out. Like that, your parents aren't going to tell you that, right? I mean, your friends are not going to tell you that, because they want you to feel happy.
Right.
But YC will kind of give you the hard lessons, and that is super useful. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the second thing is I think getting into the mindset of the YC batch. And by that, I mean, YC says during the batch, they're trying to help you achieve your top speed as a company. They're trying to get you to move as fast as you possibly can as a team. And that top speed is kind of the benchmark against which you can measure yourself for the rest of your time as a company. So they're pushing you. There's all of this external pressure. It's a ton of stress, but it's getting you to that top speed so you can understand what you're capable of as a company in a given amount of time. And then from that, most companies try to approximate that going forward. It's very hard to keep that pace forever. But at least that you are capable of that. And ideally you're keeping as close to that pace as possible for the months and years after YC. And then the third thing is the network, right? I mean, it's a lot of our early customers came through YC. It's a great network of founders who are all in similar boats or have been in similar boats, and who are willing to try products when they're new. And are also willing to be very honest and blunt with you as users, which is itself super valuable.
Super helpful, right?
Yeah.
Not only from the mentors to the thought leaders, even the cohort is helping you in that feedback. It really helps, because usually at the first stages you don't get certain customers who would be really blunt on providing such feedback.
Exactly. And well, I mean, most customers that don't like your product will just disappear. But YC founders will tell you if they don't like something, they'll tell you why. And they'll give you that feedback. And that is just a gold mine at the beginning. So having that network, not just as a network of early customers, but even if you don't sell to a YC founder ever, having that network to ask questions to learn from, to become friends with, maybe someday to work at their companies, or hire them for your company. I mean, you just don't know what the opportunities will be. So those are the 3 main things.
All right. Thanks for sharing that feedback as well.
Yeah.
And with regard to the latest updates which you have from your startup, what are your latest updates you can share from your side as a startup?
Yeah, well, so we're really excited to be releasing a web app for Bracket this week. So if you go to usebracket.com in the next few days, you'll be able to set up connections yourself. It'll be self-serve. And, we continue to add integrations all the time. So right now we have integrations with MongoDB, Postgres, Firestore, and Firebase, as well as DynamoDB. We're adding integrations for Snowflake. We've integrated with Google Sheets, Airtable, and Notion. We're going to add integrations for certain CRMs. So if anybody is looking to sync data one way or two ways between these tools or tools like them, let us know. Let us know what you want to see built, and we would love to prioritize that. But yeah, we're moving into self-serve now, and just continuing to make it a better user-facing experience.
All right. Thank you very much for that feedback as well. I think Derek joined just now. Hey, Derek, I'm with Ian today at the Fireside Chat. I think probably we would be able to have a separate session later on as well as a continuation. Derek, would you like to give an intro about yourself?
Hi, sorry. I thought it was at 7 o'clock. Sorry, it came 7 p.m.
No worries.
on this fire. Yeah. So yeah, I'm part of nFinance, and we basically I think what you call that we found a niche in reverse factoring, in a sense that a lot of companies are factoring on what you call the Amazon and eBay and anything that was an API, but there's so many vendors out there, retailers out there that actually does drop shipping, including like Home Depot, Wayfair, Lowe's, and a lot of these services that they don't provide to these dropship vendors. Retailers,
and when it comes to your journey as a person who had been initially in the gaming industry, moving towards e-commerce, how do you connect these particular dots from e-commerce to fulfillment and towards the FinTech?
Yeah, so I was in I started in e-commerce in like 2006 is the early days of e-commerce, and I was a server engineer during that time. And then 2018, the financial crisis came, and that's when we didn't have enough funding. We left. We kind of went, the company didn't do too well, and then I went to gaming, but then I was doing a side hustle. But eventually, I was still doing e-commerce from 2010 to 2017, and then I started a company called Semports to really help brands to distribute to other channels besides just Amazon and eBay, to educate a lot of brands to get into these channels. And then what I found out is the fact that Home Depot, Lowe's, Wayfair, they pay their vendors over 30 days. Their net terms is 30 days. And when I was trying to look funding for my vendors and say, hey, look, can you factor these vendors? And then companies like Payability will be like, well, we can only factor eBay, Amazon, and let's say what we call public marketplaces, right? So that's the difference. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to educate them, say, look, there's other markets out there that needs your support. Home Depot pays in 30 days. Lowe's pays in 30 days. Petco pays in 60 days. So that's where nFinance comes in is to really try to support these kind of vendors. That's the niche that we're trying to really try to help out.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Derek, on that feedback. So since we are at the end towards of this session, I know that you have a new update which you want to share with vFunder as well. Would you like to share our audience about your latest fundraising and update from Sendport side?
Yeah, on the Sendport side, we are actually raising funding and crowdfunding at vFunder for $1 million, and then we're trying to raise a total of 5 million. But we would like to have our clients and our friends and families and people to really to what's that word to help us market our product and everything else for vFunder. So, and the other 4 million is going to be institutional investors that we want to do. So yeah, so we're raising a vFunder round for to support e-commerce brands.
Perfect. So Ian, you might remember sometime back when we were initially catching up, I mentioned that when it comes to nFinance, we are connected to both e-commerce and FinTech. So Derek, I wanted to introduce both of you together because Derek is from the e-commerce industry and Ian is actually providing no-code related data point connecting solution called Bracket. So there's a ton of opportunities for us to connect with each other. And when it comes to collaboration, that's, I believe, where our success would be in the future, because so many siloed work have now integrated into seamless solutions, which would simply provide solutions to complex life problems today, which we are faced. So as an end note, I would like to thank you, both of you, for joining today and joining for the first session of Mr. FinTech Fireside Chat session. And with regard to the FinTech Fireside Chat, thank you very much for joining in. And don't forget to subscribe for our YouTube channels as well. Ian, Derek, over to you if you are to provide an end note from your side as well.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for the invite. It was super fun to talk through trends in databases and no code and where the next couple of years are going. And excited to stay in contact with you. And if anybody has need of something like a Zapier, but for their databases, Zapier, but for their data, let me know. Reach out to me. Happy to chat, or just go to usebracket.com.
Perfect. Derek, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Kalana. I want to let's say that if any brands or any manufacturers out there, or if you want to start a business, import and export business, of course, selling products into like in the US, Home Depot, Lowe's, Wayfair. Besides the typical Amazon, we're here to help. Thank you, Kalana, for this. And then also, yeah, if you need a cash flow, everything else, then I think Kalana can help.
Definitely. nFinance is ready to help any e-commerce seller who is keen on getting daily payouts with regard to invoice factoring for multiple marketplaces, ranging from Amazon, Walmart to more than 10+ platforms. So thank you very much, guys, for connecting with Mr. FinTech Fireside Chat Connecting Dot session. We look forward to have catch-up sessions in the future as well, and we would be inviting you and the industry thought leaders on FinTech and data and technology sector as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Sorry. All right.